This type of a project was real common a long time ago when there were more Mauser actions out there, because people would order a Mauser and the barrel would be in rough shape, or it would be stepped, military contour, and they wouldn't want that. So they could order a commercial barrel that was much more sporting, brand spanking new, and of course head space is all over the place with these rifles. So what companies would do is make the barrel, cut the chamber, but the chamber wasn't cut deep, as in it wouldn't go all the way to head space. So it's up to the builder to take the barrel, install it, and then use a finish reamer to finish the head space, set head space. And when we get done looking at the barrel, I'll switch over to the board and make some drawings so everybody understands what head space really is. So coming back all the way, when we start into the barrel, get it to focus a little bit better. Focus on the computer and focus on this screen are two different focus settings, I've noticed. All right, we're starting into the very back edge of the barrel. So this is the back of the barrel. We're starting into the chamber here. And we go in, and anybody who has never looked with a bore scope at a barrel is going to look at that and say, oh my God, look how rough that is. All right, we'll address that. First of all, this camera, I'm not sure what the power is, but when we get into the rest of the barrel, I will show you something that will put it into perspective for you. You cannot see these little individual grooves by looking at it with your eye. These are very, very, very fine, and that is literally the edge of the reamer and the stone that it was ground with. The edges of the stone scratches in the reamer is what's put those marks in. So people will buy a bore scope because you can get a cheap one for 80 bucks on Amazon. They throw it in their barrels and, oh my God, that's the worst barrel ever. Really, the problem is you just can't fucking shoot. There's nothing wrong with the barrel. If you don't know what you're looking at when you inspect it, seriously, all right, people come to me with accuracy problems all the time. I can give you lots of examples of accuracy complaints. I'll take it, sit it down, shoot 3/4 of an inch. All right. The barrel is typically not the problem. So as we go in here and you look at these marks, if you aren't trained, you think, oh my God, look how bad that is. So as I keep going up through here, I'm going to show you some other marks that also jump out and look kind of bad. So as I go in, this is the body of the chamber right here. So this is going up the brass. The brass would fit in all the way up to right here. So this little circle, this little line here is the transition into our shoulder. So obviously the 6.5 Swede is a bottleneck rifle cartridge, so that's where the shoulder sits inside the chamber. And I've got to change, there we go, to go up the shoulder. It's getting closer to the lens, so I have to constantly alter right there. And you look at that shoulder, and again, you're thinking, oh my God, look how rough and beautiful that is. Right here at the neck shadow, that's where we transition into the neck. So the neck of the brass goes in this section, and you see these sweeping marks going that way. I see sweeping marks going that way. I see little scratches that are going this way at kind of a pattern that are counter to the little teeny tiny marks we're already used to seeing. Now, I've hit a little spot right here. This, from here to here, is a little 45-degree angle. That is at the end of the brass. Our brass ends in the chamber here. From here forward, the bullet would be sticking into a portion of the chamber called the throat. Now the throat is not finished on this barrel because it hasn't been hit with a finish reamer yet. Headspace is not set. So this is a rifling land. So let me come over here. This is the groove that makes a rectangular shaped mark on your bullet. So when you look at these little lines and you think, oh my God, look how rough that is. Let me put this into perspective for you. The height of this land to the depth of that groove is 4 thousandths. That is the thickness of a sheet of copy paper plus 1/3 of the thickness of a sheet of copy paper. 4 1/1000ths of an inch is the height from here to here. So when you look and see all these little marks that look like they're huge, they're microscopic. Now, if we see deep gouges, that can be very problematic. This is not a deep gouge. Also, bear in mind, when I drop the finish reamer in, a lot of that's going to smooth out because the finish reamer is going to go in, it's going to cut our throat portion, which I'll show you in a different barrel. We're going to hopefully, that's going to be in the middle, and these lands, where they're up 4/1000ths, there's going to be a funnel cut. There's going to be a taper. That allows the bullet to sit in and transition into the full depth of your rifling land as it goes into the barrel. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You'll also have a section called free bore where these lands are gone. They're just cut completely out. That's room for your bullet also to go in. From that free bore, then we'll get into that lead, that taper that leads us into our rifling. As we go down through here, I can tell you one thing about this barrel right off the bat. It's button rifle. So well, how can you tell it's button rifle? As we go through here, these little rings that we're looking at, to make a button rifle barrel, they drill a hole through a long rod called deep hole drilling. It's very, very long drill bit, and the drill bit, the end of the drill bit is hollow, and it flushes coolant out. And it goes through the flutes of the drill bit so that the coolant can wash all the chips out as it digs on through that barrel from one end to the other. After they drill it, they ream it. So the reamer goes through and it cuts the bore dimension to the height of the lands, the diameter. When they make a button rifle barrel, it's called pulling a button. The button is a tool that's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches long, and it is a piece of solid tungsten carbide, and it's kind of wide in the middle and tapers down on both ends. It has your rifling groove profile and twist rate cut into that. As you pull it, it's shoving the wall material of the barrel out of the way, swaging it. Okay? It's fast, it's cheap. They developed the method in World War II because they could make barrels much faster that way. All right, the other way to make a barrel, one other way to make a barrel is to cut each one of these grooves. So there's a land, on either side of the land is a groove before you get to the next land. So when you do those two side by side, there's a land, groove, land. When you're cutting a groove with the cut rifling method, all right, I told you it's about 4/1000ths high. The land is. To cut a 4/1000ths deep groove, you're cutting about 1/10 of a thousandth at a time. So that means 40 cuts to make one groove to depth. It's a longer, slower process, but the guys who can do cut rifle barrels make the best barrels, because then they hand lap them. This barrel has not been lapped. Schillen makes a button rifle barrel, except Schillen will also hand lap it. Okay? So they kind of blend the processes. Brooks, Krieger, Bartlein, all those barrel manufacturers are cut rifle barrels. E.R. Shaw, Douglas, Wilson, I think Wilson is probably who made this particular barrel. Schillen, they're all button rifle barrels. That's why they're about half the price of the other ones, because it's faster to make. Now, as we go on down through here, the reamer, as it's pushed through to cut that bore dimension, makes those little marks based on its feed rate. Now, as I used to go through and inspect barrels, what I'm looking at in the barrel is I'm looking for these marks to be very uniform. If they're uniform, that's a good sign. If I see it uniform and then you see a gap, like it's pushed, and it goes along, it's uniform, you see another gap, it's the reamer's pushing, pushing. That inconsistency in the barrel is probably going to mean that barrel will never shoot or never shoot well. Okay. When we get into, you'll hear this term thrown around a lot. It's going to be barrel break-in procedures. So you see these little marks inside this barrel. I've already showed them to you. That's button rifling. And I found a little tiny chip up here. I was going to try to find it again. Right there's a piece of dried cutting oil. So it's brown. It looks like rust, but it's brown. That's dried oil. Keep on going through here. Here we go. See that?
Yep.
All right. As the button was pulled, it pushes that burr, that metal down right at the edge of this land to groove transition. It makes a little burr. Sometimes they fall off like that. They should brush them out or blow them out. They don't get them all. So this is in the way. Before I ever even thought about shooting this barrel, I want to clean the snot out of it to get rid of this stuff. Now, if you have a burr built up here and a burr built up here, it's very common with a button rifle barrel. When people talk about break-in procedures, you're trying to get rid of all those little burrs. They're microscopic. You would have to cut the barrel in half and cut your finger with it in an attempt to even feel these burrs. But when we're talking about the diameter of a bullet going down the barrel, being engaged by this rifling, that burr is obviously going to pull copper off as it stabilizes the bullet, which means our barrel is going to foul. As it fouls, our accuracy decreases. So break-in procedures vary, and a lot of companies will say, well, if you're going to do a break-in procedure, set it down, clean it, shoot it once, clean it, shoot it 5 times, clean in between each one, then shoot a 5-shot group. At the end of a 5-shot group, clean it again. Shoot another 5-shot group, clean it. Then shoot it 10 rounds before you clean it. As each bullet passes, the little tips of those ridges is getting smoother. You've got friction and heat, and you're smoothing that out. The little burrs on the edges of the lands, you're trimming those burrs out of the way. So they'll peel some copper off, but they're also getting diminished as the bullet goes down the barrel. So a break-in procedure is trying to get the barrel to shoot as well as it possibly can, and be as clean as it can possibly clean, because once a barrel is broken in, it's much easier to clean. It also doesn't foul as much, so your accuracy stays much longer. All right. So I have heard for years and years, and when I do like my sniper rifle classes, these guys, you know, in a class, and we'll say, you know, how often do you clean your rifle? And one guy will be like, well, I don't clean it at all until it starts to shoot bad. You know, my thing is I don't clean it. You talk to the next guy. Every 200 rounds, I clean it. Talk to the next guy. Man, we shoot 20 rounds at the range and do qualifications or target acquisition drills. I clean the bore. And then the guy over here, well, you're wearing your barrel out by cleaning it. Fuck no, it shoots good because I keep it clean. And then the arguments start. And I will shut them up and I will say, each and every one of you are right, because each and every one of your barrels is different. You will not get the same results from one barrel to the next barrel. Every barrel will tell you how it wants to be cleaned if you'll shut up and listen to it and look at it. So I've had these guys say, man, if I clean it, I gotta shoot a box of shells before it'll shoot good again. So what happens there, that means they have a shitty barrel. So when I'm showing you like how the drill goes through or the reamer goes through and it pushes and you see a slip and it pushes and you see a slip, the barrel, this is exaggerated, but the barrel looks like that. It looks like you're looking through an intestine. There's high spots, low spots. As you shoot it and get it dirty, the low spots fill up with fouling. Lead deposit, carbon deposit, copper deposit. As those low spots fill up, your velocity stabilizes because now the pressure is the same, it starts to shoot good. The moment you clean it, it shoots like shit. Then you gotta keep shooting it. Once it gets dirty, boom, it shoots good again. All right? The next guy, man, I shoot 200 rounds and it will not group at all. I run my rod, deep clean it, scrub it out good, shoots great. That means their barrel is very uniform. It's very uniform from one end to the other, and if they shoot it, they get it dirty, their pressures start to spike, their node changes, and now it doesn't shoot worth a shit. They scrub it out, boom, shoots great. So again, it's all in how the barrel was made, what the barrel's dimensions are like, the quality, and the care. You had a guy who had shot great for 1,000 rounds for 5 years, and then he leaves it out in the rain, and the bore rusts.
Yeah.
And he gets pitting in the bore, and now it doesn't shoot good. Well, that's his fault, and the barrel is not going to shoot ever again great.
What do you know about that? The pit?
Not really, but pitting is not necessarily going to make one shoot bad. I have a barrel on one rifle. I ordered it off a gun broker.
Yeah.
And if you pull the bolt out and look through the breech end, looks great. You flip it around and look from the muzzle end, and then you see the pitting. And by eye, you would say this barrel will never shoot. It will not shoot. I can put my tried and true 308 load in that barrel and shoot nickel-sized groups all day long. Everybody I know has killed a deer with that stupid rifle because it shoots great, it's short, it's light, it's got low recoil. I have had kids kill deer with it. The kids' mothers' friends kill deer with it. Guests show up here, shoot this one. We call her Old Painless because you put crosshairs on it, pull the trigger, deer's gonna die. Regardless of the fact that the barrel sucks. So if we had somebody who didn't know barrels look at it, go, oh, this barrel never shoots, and then you take it out, boom, it shoots good.
Okay.
It depends on where the pitting is, how bad the pitting is, and does the pitting go all the way around the bore?
Okay.
Because if you got pitting that just covers up a spot on one land, you got 5 other lands still engraving the bullet, making it
Yep.
spin. So even if it hits that spot, doesn't mean it's gonna make it kilter off. You got real bad pitting that goes all the way around, the bullet can be engraved, kind of skip, scoot forward, and it reestablishes different land pattern, it's not gonna shoot. Okay, so, little tiny things like that chip I showed you, I definitely wanna get chips like that out. I was trying to see, I'm not disappointed that the barrel doesn't suck, but I just don't see anything that tells me this barrel is not gonna potentially shoot well.
Is a possibility that can develop to a crack?
That what?
Is a possibility the chips can develop to a crack?
I just have one question.
Sure.
Exactly what type of rifle did this barrel come off of?
It doesn't come off of any, it's brand new.
Brand new barrel.
It's
Oh,
never-
okay, it's brand new
never been
barrel.
on a barrel.
Okay, never
on
been
rifle.
on a rifle. Okay, okay, brand new
No,
barrel.
this is an
Gotcha.
aftermarket part. I bought this while I was at Brownells.
Okay,
a couple years ago.
okay.
So what does the lapping involve? Hand lapping?
Okay, well, there's a couple different methods, but essentially, one that's kind of universal and should answer your question. Oftentimes it's called lead lapping. So they'll pour lead into the barrel over a rod, and the lead molds to the rifling groove, right? And now it's got that pattern. So as you push the rod, the lead will turn inside of the barrel with the rifling. You push it almost out of the barrel, coat it in lapping compound, pull it back in, and begin to push it from one end to the other. It rubs that lapping compound over your barrel surface on the bore, and it starts to polish all these little spots out. So you keep lapping it, push it out, clean it off, put more compound, and continue that process.
That's cool. So it literally laps.
It's literally
just like
lapping.
With a stone, you're just using it different.
Correct, you're using a kind of like a pumice, like you
Okay.
can polish wood with.
All right,
It's a liquid lapping
it's
compound.
almost like valve compound.
It's exactly what it is. It's just,
Okay.
it's a little finer typically than valve grinding compound.
Okay. Always wondered about that.
Yeah. It's lead lapping, and that process is not new. That is not a new process. So I have, where I work with the Historical Society at home, we have an antique rifling machine. Probably made mid-1800s. It's Appalachian. We can't say that it's from one county or one state, but it's from that region. I have that in our traditional gunsmithing shop on the museum property. And you gotta figure, these rednecks from Germany, Switzerland, England showed up over here. This rifling rod, all right, the guide was a piece of hickory. Hickory is about the hardest wood they could come up with. Well, they would chisel it out and chop on it with a hatchet to get it roughly round, and they would make a treadle lathe. So a treadle lathe holds it between centers, but they would wrap a rope around it, tie the rope to a sapling tree, and they would step on this end, and the rope would make a turn, and they go along with a chisel and get it reasonably smooth. They would lay a line out on the floor with chalk, and they had the dimensions figured out. They would lay another chalk line in a triangular fashion, leave the chalk line out, tack it to this rifling rod, and as they rolled the chalk line, the string would put the rifling twist rate on this guide. Then they take a chisel and chisel the groove out, and when you put it through the rifling head, it's round, but it's got a tooth. The tooth engages the groove in the rifling rod, and as you pull a T-handle that free floats, it turns the rifling rod. On the rifling rod, or the guide, you have a rod that comes through the barrel, and it's got a tooth on it. And then once it engages and you're sitting here pulling the T-handle, it pulls that rod and that tooth will cut your rifle in the barrel. And they showed up from Europe with enough blacksmithing tools to start making some shit. And they use local materials to make rifling machines and boring machines. And that's how we make rifle barrels. In the mid-1700s here.
Yeah.
Man, that is amazing.
That is ingenuity.
Let me see, I'll show you this, all right?
Alright.
You'll like this. We'll come back to the bore scope. Let me see if I can get onto college internet.